Can you believe that we started recording right in the middle of 2020 with all of the COVID and lockdowns going on around us, unable to meet up? So like many a young gentleman, we turned to the internet for our entertainment. Tried to find a place where we could meet up and talk about the good, the bad, and that time that Stu saw a pelican on the canal. In order to facilitate our dreams of answering all of the big questions in film, and after a few attempts at recording via other methods to various levels of success, we found Zencastr, a super easy web-based one-stop shop for recording. Log in and you're ready to record in a matter of seconds. It doesn't take a tech genius to get high-quality audio or video. And on top of that, the one time we have had an issue, the fact that the multi-layered backups are stored locally means it's easily fixed all in browser. There are plenty of tools you need when you start podcasting, so let Zencastr take that headache away as it offers a place to record, edit and distribute all from one website. Any lazy bones Jones can pick up and play and have studio quality audio or 4K video put out for the world to see when using Zencastr. Go to zencastr.com/pricing and use our code CAGEFIGHTING and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. We want you to have the same easy experiences we do for all our podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. And now, hit the music.
I feel the need for speed.
Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man Andy Gillard here. Hope everybody's keeping well out there right now. Today's episode is going to be a slight different style to how we usually do things. You may remember last year I did a bit of a monologue episode on a certain wrestler turned actor turned wrestler again turned actor again. This week I wanted to revisit that format a little and talk about a man who is one of one in modern cinema. A director whose name alone can sell a film. You don't need a superhero, you don't need IP, you don't need any nostalgia bait. Just Christopher Nolan. So for the first part of the episode, it's just going to be me. Then Ash and Stu are going to join me after this portion. And then we've got our short film review. And we'll be continuing the cruise in the final part as normal. But part of the reason why we pivoted to Tom Cruise after Nick Cage was that we spoke a few times previously about how Tom Cruise doesn't miss with his films. And that he's now positioned himself as the saviour of cinema. And I think when it comes to behind the camera, so Christopher Nolan is Tom Cruise's equivalent. Chris Nolan is arguably the biggest name in his field. He is a man who has the greatest of respects for that which has come before him, but he's also obsessed with what is due to come next, ensuring that his audiences don't forget the traditions of the theatre, whilst also using the technology his predecessors could never have dreamed of handling. Nolan is probably one of only a handful of names, maybe the only one at this level, who has managed to converge the bifurcation that we have seen on cinema screens in the 21st century. In the 2000s, we started to see the death of the mid-budget film. Movies were either studio blockbusters that cost 150 plus million, or they were art house, independent movies that cost a wish, a dream, and probably a bit of trauma. Some directors have managed to walk that line between the two. Ironically, Paul Thomas Anderson. I say ironically because we will be discussing one of his films in the final part of the podcast. Quentin Tarantino would be the other name, and of course Chris Nolan. They would be the three big dogs of this game. But Anderson is the visionary who makes the art that inspires and wins awards, but probably struggles to pay the bills. Tarantino pushes the medium forward with this cool outsider energy and good box office returns. But Chris Nolan, he's both of them, and so much more. QT has made just under $2 billion on a budget of $420 million. Anderson, $530 million returns for $382 million spend. He brings prestige to the studio, so he's a bit of a loss leader. Studios get to brag that they support works of art that will be there when we get to Oscar season. But Nolan, he's tackled the highest budgets and made the most films, costing studios $4.1 billion to create his works. But for that princely sum, studios have recouped $6.3 billion. And the other side of the success coin, when we talk about Oscar love, Tarantino has directed movies which have amassed 7 Oscars across 11 films. Anderson has got 9 winners, including a Best Director, 41 nominations too, and that's across 10 films. But Nolan, in his 12 films, he has a staggering 49 nominations and 18 winners. And as we're gearing up for the Odyssey, if we are saying that Tarantino and Anderson are titans, Christopher Nolan is Typhon. He is a colossal, godlike beast, so massive that his head brushes the stars. I spoke at the beginning of this about the bifurcation of cinema. As the rise of low-risk, high box-office IP began to dominate, the antithesis of this was the rise of the writer-director, those wanting to create outside of these tight studio confines. This is why we currently live in a world of blockbuster superheroes and computer games and sequels of reboots of sequels. And the flip side of that, we have A24 and Neon doing the Lord's work. However, what both camps of cinema lovers do appreciate is the works of Christopher Nolan. He is a man who is spiritually A24, but having delivered over $6 billion to his studio paymasters whilst making an art house Batman Begins, a time-bending and mind-bending sci-fi film, adaptations of some of the biggest stories and events of our histories. As an auteur, Nolan almost never lets his audience rest on its laurels. Yes, they're all enjoyable films that you can just sit there and watch, but if you really want to make the most out of one of his films, you need to actively partake in them. Nolan's films are seldom linear. Our minds don't often remember in a linear fashion, and our emotions certainly aren't linear. They can be skittish, but also indefatigable. They can extend out and beyond the confines of the mind and the story. Oppenheimer and Batman both played with multiple stories running parallel. Tenet, Interstellar, Inception, all were chock full of ideas, so much so that they were spilling off the page. Not to mention Memento running narratives both forward and backwards. Some of his more standard stories also play with time. The Dark Knight and Dunkirk both having large set pieces which involve countdowns. Time is a theme explored across multiple facets within Nolan's work, and it's something everyone understands and deals with on a day-to-day basis. So when he's playing with time, you may not understand the physics behind it, but you do understand the feels behind it. A film doesn't always have to make sense. Sometimes you just have to suspend your disbelief and let the story take you away with it. And I think that Nolan is arguably the greatest director at sweeping you up and taking you with the tale being told. Another theme which Nolan exploits within his films is that of the unreliable narrator, often posing the question, can we actually trust what we see, what we remember, what we believe to be true? In Memento, Leonard Shelby is constructing his own reality with Polaroids and tattoos as a blanket for his grief. In The Prestige, magicians ruin their lives to maintain a lie to an unknowing audience. Inception sees Cobb literally having to spin a top just to verify what is real. Even Oppenheimer, based on a book of a true story, is split into two almost competing narratives. We have the colourful perspective, the fission of Oppenheimer's view. But against that, we have the fusion of Strauss's objective black and white perspective. Each of his protagonists are damaged, obsessive, often driven by grief and guilt or some destructive mission. Memento, Prestige, Inception, Interstellar, all of the Batmans, Insomnia, Oppenheimer, all men with an obsession, all men anchored to reality due to a death, and often men weighing up the cost of their greatness and the toll their obsession takes on them. Something which we can all relate to. We as viewers all have cracks in the marble that makes us who we are, and we all have to pay a price to keep that marble together. We can see elements of ourselves within the heroes, and sometimes the villains of Nolan's work. And whilst they may be larger than life stories, the fundamentals, the innards, they're what ground us to both them and what binds them to ourselves. And finally, and probably most intriguingly, would be his exploration of duality is what truly fascinates. Nolan's films often focus on men leading double lives. Bruce Wayne and Batman is the most obvious one, but it does run deeper than that. The Prestige shows the cost of that double life on both sides. Insomnia shows how Dormer's moral compass fractures. As he loses sleep, he loses himself. And Tenet, it quite literally shows the protagonist fighting both the past and future versions of themselves. To build these works of art, Nolan looks to both the past and future of cinema when building these mazes on the silver screen. Aggressively anti-streaming. You won't be seeing Nolan's film debuting on Netflix. Fuck that. After a 20-year relationship with Warner Brothers, he packed his bags and found pastures new after they announced that all films in 2021 would have the same release dates on both their own HBO streaming service and in the cinema. Nolan refuses to be a Russo brother, happy out there developing slop, making hashtag content for the second screen experience with multiple exposition dumps to keep dum-dums on track. This is absolutely not something this Knight of the Realm will kowtow to. Your first viewing of Inception sure as shit won't be on a vertical video feed, watched in bite-sized, algorithmically pleasing chunks. To Nolan, cinema is church, and to watch his films, we should be in the pews. Once again, to bring it back to Tom Cruise for a moment, we've spoken previously about how Cruise is staunchly of the belief that if the audience is to feel anything, it needs to be real. Cruise is hanging off a plane so that the element of danger is genuine. There is no green screen trickery, no CG monsters. It feels like Cruise and Nolan would make the most excellent of bedfellows in this way. Nolan has waged a militant war against the digital age. The trickery of a lesser director wouldn't fly here. Folding, bending, twisting, entanglements within Inception were done on a stage, not a computer room. He wanted the weight of the world to be present within those moments. Hell, he even flipped a full-size 18-wheeler truck in The Dark Knight in the middle of Chicago, only to top that by then crashing a Boeing 747 into a hangar in Tenet. Not to dare forget about the beach landing and dogfights in Dunkirk. Actual Spitfires, actual rescue boats, actual explosions with actual actors. Authenticity elicits real responses, something a big, flashy, robots fighting film will never get. Jeopardy cannot be faked. When all you see is insert generic superhero here fighting Dr. Iron Man Doom by throwing pixelated lightning at each other with zero impact, it will be sanitised. And sanitisation is not something you will ever see within a Nolan film. Which brings us to this very moment, to The Odyssey. A $250 million mythological epic about a man trying to find his way back home after war. Shot on location in 6 countries, the first feature-length film in history shot entirely on 70mm IMAX cameras. Universal didn't even put a single star's face on the first poster, just the name Nolan in bold black letters, because they know, and we know, that his name is the IP name. Because in a wonderful metatextual way, when you put aside the box office, the recognition of peers and critics, the accolades, you realise the real truth of Nolan's work. Christopher Nolan is the protagonist of a Christopher Nolan film. He is Cobb trying to build this perfectly stable dream world so that he doesn't have to face reality. He is Robert Angier in The Prestige, sacrificing everything to deliver a magic trick that leaves an audience breathless. He is Odysseus. He is a man navigating a treacherous changing sea, fighting the corporate monsters of the streaming age, trying to guide us back to the home we forgot we missed, to the theatre itself. So much of what takes up our time can be disposable. TikTok, Netflix, Prime, sequels, reboots, whatever they can force into your ears as you second screen the latest Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds sloppy shit, whilst doom scrolling through whatever social media app has their hooks into you currently. But Christopher Nolan is a man who builds fucking monuments for us. He will not let us go into that particular dark night. He wants us to look up in wonderment and awe, to remember what made going to the cinema such an event, filled with both magic and joy. If the Titans are starting to slowly fade, then we should thank Gaia that we still have our own Typhon. Out there reaching for the stars, reminding us what it feels to sit together, maybe with a bag of popcorn, and just be there in the dark and feel the wonder. Right, so that's the first part done. I am now joined with Ashley and Stuart to discuss more Nolan stuff before we continue on with our short film review and the Cruise hits Magnolia. Ash, how are we doing, sir? Haven't seen you for a little while. Are we good?
Yeah, not too bad. Just melting. I'm just heat now. It's just I've had enough of it.
It's just saturated the body, hasn't it? I feel like I've just turned into a fucking sun at this point. Stu, how are we keeping, mate?
I'm looking forward to not drinking every day. That's not going to happen. It's a season only 3 weeks away, so... Oh, dear.
You've got like a fucking 2-week detox, and then you're back on it. So, gents, in the very first part of the podcast, I just did a bit of a soliloquy about my love of Christopher Nolan. Stu, where does he sit on the Mount Rushmore of great directors? Is he one of the 4 greatest, or is he like knocking on the door to go in. Where does he sit for you?
I think if you're looking at it from a populist point of view, then he absolutely is on there. Probably next to Spielberg. But I don't think you wouldn't. If you went to a normal person and said Chris Nolan or Scorsese, you'd probably get Christopher Nolan as a response, because Scorsese is very film studenty, regardless of the gangster stuff. And I think that's the thing with Christopher Nolan. He's both very mainstream and very excellent at the same time, and yet seems still to be remarkably humble and not a complete twat. So,
yeah,
I think you just look at the reaction for the bookings for Odyssey and how it's sold out everywhere.
immediately, yeah.
Despite we talked about this a year ago, when it literally said 1 year from now, and despite all the online stuff about the casting and whatever, in the real world where none of that matters, you can just look at the cinemas and at the sheer amounts of seats. I mean, I have got tickets for tomorrow night to go and watch it. As I'm recording it, if I get to it tomorrow night or if I get to it in 2 weeks' time, not sure yet. Depends the state I'm in. And tomorrow afternoon, but this one's weird because I'm looking forward to it, but not like all the others. It's more of an intrigue than anything else, but there's no doubt in my mind it'll be excellent. And there ain't many directors that you could say that about anymore. Everyone seems to have a lull at some point, and he hasn't had any. I know Tenet was divisive for a lot of people, especially Matt, that we talked about it at the time.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved Tenet. I thought it was crazy, but in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
But even doing something as weird as that, to go from that and to come up with something as beloved as the Odyssey and have the reaction without anyone even seeing it, that speaks volumes, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Ash, what about yourself? I mean, take the Batman out of it, because I feel like when you review superhero stuff, the director doesn't really matter so much. I think a lot of people just look towards the character in those circumstances. If you look at his work outside of the Batman franchise, it's unquestionably one of the greatest filmographies of any director ever, isn't it?
Yeah. See, I'm different in a sense. I'm guessing more on the side of Matt, that I don't think I'd say I didn't enjoy Tenet, but I about halfway through, I just sat there and thought, I've seen this before, because it was just that episode of Red Dwarf where they go to the backwards planet. So I couldn't get it out of my mind, and that's probably more on me, to be honest. But like you say, he's appointment viewing in a world that you don't have appointment viewing anymore. Back in the day when it was somebody was bringing out a film, you go and see it. You don't get that anymore because there's so many different films, so many different actors, etc., so many superhero films. It's not appointment viewing anymore. But when Christopher Nolan brings out a film, you know you're going to be seated, and that's a special talent to know that you've got that pull.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I know you guys haven't listened to the first part of the podcast where I talked about it, but the fact that when this film was announced, the poster was a year ago and it was just 5 letters, Nolan. And that immediately people were excited because we knew something else was coming, especially after a run of films I think were getting progressively better. Tenet aside, I loved it at the time. I definitely want to revisit it because I'm a little bit unsure if I got dragged into the hype or not. I would like to watch it again. But I think his record is just phenomenal. And Oppenheimer, I mean, I know we'll be doing our favourite Nolan films in the future. Oppenheimer is just... this is going to be a puntastic thing to say. It blew me away because it was just fucking excellent, wasn't it? And how do you top something like Oppenheimer, Stu?
You go with what someone described as the birth of modern cinema and modern entertainment in the poem of the Odyssey, I guess. Which tackling something like that is pretty ballsy in the first place. But the fact that he's done like this stuff before-ish, like Dunkirk was very action heavy, keeping it as real as possible. This seems to be the case as well. Like the Matt Damon quote about how it was going to be the worst shoot ever, and he was still looking forward to it. Yeah, you mentalist. I think that's how it's going to be done, by not sacrificing anything at all.
Oh, and we know that Christopher Nolan is like a slave to practical effects as much as they can. Obviously, there's going to be elements within this where there's going to be CG, just because it's a story that is several thousand years old. Like, they can't not have some CG. But Ash, do you think the fact that this is going to be a mostly practical set is going to have, like, it's going to have everybody salivating? I think it's going to get like the highbrow and the, I don't say lowbrow because I don't think his work is ever going to be lowbrow, but I think it's going to try and capture us, the people who love the original Star Wars and the people who love the new Star Wars. I think everyone will be kind of salivating over this one.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's been inspired a bit by Project Hail Mary's success, because all you got to do is look at that and you felt the realness, and like we said at the time, you can tell when it's real. Same with Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. He's obviously fed the inspiration of stuff like that because he likes to keep stuff real, and that's what sells. Like Project Hail Mary is a massive success, and everyone just loves it. It's Stu's film of the year. It's down to how real it felt. Like, obviously you got a bit of thingy with Rocky, but it's, for the best part, it's real, and that's what you need. That's what.
Yeah, I mean, again, I know I mentioned this in the first part, but a lot of Tom Cruise's stuff is him saying that if it's not authentic, the audience won't feel it. And I think that Christopher Nolan is of the same school of thought, isn't he, Stu?
Yeah. You see that Tom Cruise put a little post out earlier thanking him.
Yeah, I've got it lined up here. Yeah.
He's
got a picture pointing at the ticket of the Odyssey. Yeah. What was his words? Wow, to Chris, Emma, and all of your brilliant cast and crew, thank you for an amazing night in the movie theatre. I can't wait to see it again. Didn't he do this for Oppenheimer and Barbie as well last time? Like, this is why we pivoted to do Tom Cruise as the saviour of cinema, because this is what he does. Like, he wants people to get butts in seats. And yeah, just what a fucking guy.
Imagine if, I mean, people know by the time of this comes out, if he's reenacted a scene on the centre circle during the halftime show. I mean, what else is he going to be doing? What is he there?
It is strange. Yeah, it is strange. I mean, we're kind of going to have to review it. I wasn't going to bother fucking watching it, but I suppose I do need to figure out what's going on, don't we?
He can't show. What's he going to do? Like,
I wonder if it's going to be like, you know, the Olympics, maybe. But like, remember the Olympics when James Bond had the fucking Queen out of the plane? I wonder if he's going to do some Mission Impossible stunt.
Off the MetLife roof? Yeah.
Might slap Infantini's head.
I would say that, but it's the MetLife. There's no roof.
There's that little thing, the overhang.
No, yeah.
It's not too high either, so if he falls down...
Yeah, crazy. But yes, Stu, they are from the same school of thought, aren't they?
Yeah. They both love films, they love cinema, they love the making of it all. It's going to happen one day. It's going to be glorious.
Yeah, I mean, now that Cruise hopefully is done with the Mission Impossible, and this is a conversation we'll have in a little bit with Magnolia, now I think he's done with the more actiony side of things, and hopefully Digger is kind of indicating it might be more acting. Ash, can you see a future where we're going to get Cruise and Nolan working together?
It's got to happen. He's had most of the other ones. He's had most of the other big boys, hasn't he? So it's a date and destiny, isn't it? It's just how you're going to fit. It's how are you going to fit Cillian Murphy in alongside him? Because I say he's got his favourites, but you say what we've had DiCaprio, we've had Damon, Bale, Hardy, Pattinson.
Yeah,
it's got to come. It's got to come now.
Well, it'd be the biggest director in the world and the biggest actor in the world, wouldn't it? It feels like it has to. It feels like we are destined to see that on the big screen at some point. And I can't wait for it. And like, as a slight aside, I am really excited for Digger. All the early reviews have been really good, so that's something for us to look forward to this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing it. And then, like, obviously, when we get to talk about it properly for the final part of the pod, it should be interesting. So yeah, I can't wait to see it. So this is supposed to be the first film that I think has been shot entirely on 70mm IMAX. I don't think that they've made a new fucking IMAX for like 50 years, like an IMAX projector for 50 years, I heard. So I'd be kind of intrigued to see how that goes. Stu, are you going to be seeing this on IMAX, mate? Or is this going to be a super screen jobby? What's the plans?
Yeah, the one that I've got booked is super screen. If anyone else is going to Telford tomorrow, then I probably would have jumped on board. But no, it's the thing with however great IMAX is, and like when we went to see Gravity in IMAX as well, and obviously very different kind of film. But after like 10 minutes, you don't really notice anyway. You're just drawn into it, regardless of how amazing it looks and the spectacle of it all. And obviously with Project Hail Mary, I'm guessing it couldn't have been much more spectacular in IMAX than it was in super screen. Other than the sheer size of the projection, but it's perfectly adequate for me. I mean, it's clear enough and good enough now, especially with the Barco laser upgrade and stuff that we've had here. But saying that, if we had one closer, then I'd absolutely go and see it in IMAX, wouldn't I?
That therein lies our issue. I think it's like 15 miles to the next one, where obviously this one is 2 miles away. It's quite a big jump, unfortunately, but yeah. I think I almost disagree a little bit with I mean, we've had some decent upgrades at the Wolverhampton Cineworld, don't get me wrong, but the actual quality, like, it's fucking grainless when you watch IMAX cinema, and like the depth of the field and stuff like that is so incredible. And Ash, obviously, Sinners being our big film last year, seeing that in IMAX, the shift in aspect ratios and just like really tiny geeky things that you love about cinema, I feel that Christopher Nolan is the one who is going to make the most of the gimmick.
Yeah, yeah. Like I've said offline, he is. I liken him to James Cameron with Cameron in his 3D. Nolan loves IMAX and he will use it to as best he can. Is it this one? It's fully 70mm as well. IMAX. Like, you're going to want to see as much of that screen as possible. Like, and I think he'll utilize every inch of that as well. It won't just be dead space in those extra inches. It'll be, you will see stuff.
Yeah, I suspect so. But I'm sure I just read, or maybe a friend told me, that I think there's only one true IMAX cinema in the UK, and I think it's the Printworks in Manchester. I think all the others are like close, but not 100%. Which ones are the other ones?
They're both.
I don't think even. Oh, I didn't think the BFI was actually like true IMAX. I thought it was close, but not quite.
Oh, I don't know.
Again, like, it's proper geeky technical nonsense that most people never give a shit about, but it's something that he clearly does, and I kind of want to see it in IMAX. I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to actually see it tomorrow myself. I will be recording Thursday night. I don't think I'll get a chance to see it tomorrow. I'm probably going to have to go on Monday. 7 o'clock kickoff in Telford. That might be doable, you know. We'll see.
I'm going for IMAX. Obviously not the big boy, but I am looking at the Printworks one to see, because I think it'll be worth it.
Could be. Yeah. So long old journey though, like hour on the train, however long it takes to get to the cinema, 3 hours in the cinema, and then to get back. But yeah, I feel like it probably would be worth it.
Well, it's only half an hour in the car for me.
Yes, fair point. Prick. Cool. Right, let's have a quick break, and then we'll do our short film review. Welcome back. It's the short film review. It is The Disappearance of Willie Bingham. Stu, I remember you and I talking about this film. It must have been early days of this podcast, I think, is when we'd stumbled across it. And because I've always wanted to do something about watching short films, and I've always been a bit of a bastard to try and find them. So I'm quite glad that I found this. And it's always been on the back burner for us to do a bit more of a look at it. So I'm kind of glad that we finally got round to discussing this one, because it's an intriguing one. And I'm glad that we've got Ash here, who I presume this is brand new to. But I kind of like it.
Yeah, it was years ago, because it was one of the ones that I told you about, because it was mentioned on Knockback, and that show's been defunct really for 2 years in itself. other than the odd special and stuff. It was probably one of the first shorts that I'd seen, and also, yeah, it's. I mean, I didn't need to watch it again, but I wanted to.
Same.
It's what I get into.
It's one that I've got on my, not my watch later YouTube list, on my liked list. There's only like about a dozen things on there that I occasionally revisit, and this is one that I probably revisit more than is healthy, to be honest. But it's a good one. Right, Ash, because it's new to yourself, I will come to you first.
Okay.
Right, okay. Tell me when to go, and then you've got a minute to talk about it.
Go. This was one of the creepiest couple of 12 minutes that I've seen in a very long while, without seeing really anything apart from some grainy thingy footage. I was mortified at the thought of what this world could be, because you could see this sort of thing happening. It kind of made me think it's a better version of the third Human Centipede, of a deterrent of how to stop people doing stuff. And then you spend the last couple of minutes feeling really bad for this guy. Like, it makes you very sad. It's mortifying. It's just a very, very good way to spend 12 minutes. No complaints whatsoever. Very good.
Excellent, thank you. Right, Stu, say when.
I mean, you do feel bad, but only for a slight amount of time. But it gets the aim across perfectly. Like I said briefly years ago when I first saw this, it's one of the things that's a hypothetical that you think, yeah, I'd do this. I'd cut people's arms and torsos and other parts of the body off if the crime is so heinous. And if this was the disappearance of Thomas Tuchel, then great, wonderful, fully deserved. But they do say at the very start that the people have the chance to say no, to stop the procedures. You rape and kill someone's daughter, you're getting fucked. And so he does.
Excellent, thank you. Right, okay. In my original review, I planned on using the word Kafka-esque because I thought it simply meant like disturbing, often violent body horror. But after Googling it, I found that not only was I using the word correctly, it ended up being a much better use to describe what this is about. It's a word used to describe situations that are highly complicated, nightmarish, illogical, typically characterised by overwhelming senseless bureaucracy or oppressive power structures. And The Disappearance of Willie Bingham is a movie whereby governments have decided that criminals can pay off their crimes by mutilating to their bodies to such an extent that they cease to exist. Like, it's the perfect word to describe this. To make the word even more perfect, Kafka wrote in The Penal Colony, which is a prison warden proudly shows off his efficient killing machine. And the warden here has that demented gleam in his eye, enjoying the vengeance of the system. This feels as much of a Black Mirror episode as it does a 12-minute exploration into society's obsession with punishment. And beyond that, like the obsession with pain and suffering, asking how much is enough here. At what point have we paid for our sins, or our sins seared into our very skins, no matter how much of that we give up? Can we never actually pay for our crimes, whether real or perceived? How much is enough? Right, the Cruise continues with Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia. Welcome back to the final part of the podcast. Released December 17th, 1999 in the US. We got it in March, apparently. This has been something that's been on my radar for years to watch, but at 3 hours, it was always a case of, I know I'm going to need to find a good fucking chunk of time to watch it. And it's like such a beast that it's kind of difficult to try and fit it in. But I ridiculously started watching it at like 11 o'clock at night. And I thought, I'll watch the first half, and then something happens at one point, and I'm just locked in for the rest of this fucking film then. So yeah, I was there till the bitter early hours of the morning because it just got me hook, line, and sinker, this movie did. Stu, you said you'd seen it before. Is that right?
Yeah. It was one of my, when I was putting the Britannia DVD club back in the day, it was this and Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas came at the same time. I think it was like the precursor to Love Film and Netflix and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But you got to keep them rather than send them back. Yeah, I've probably seen it I think this is probably only like the third or fourth time I've ever seen it, though. But that's because it's excellent, and I wouldn't have chose to watch it again because, like I said about Journey and how that's a 90-minute game, and I don't want to ever play that again. Because how good it was the one and only time I played it. This was somehow even better this time around because it's been 12, 30, something like 12 odd years since I saw it last, and it's class. I can, but I can fully understand if people don't like it because it is hard and it is a tough watch at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Ash, you'd said to me like there's a couple of bits that were a bit like I think you said you felt it was a little bit on the long side, didn't you? Like 3 hours 8 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit too. What's the word? Thick. I think that's the best way. I think bit too thick, bit too veiny. I think you could have. I think there were a couple of branches. I think you could have cut off. Like I enjoyed it, but I don't think I enjoyed it half as much as you two did, just because there was a couple of bits I was kind of like, I'm not that fussed here, and then the ending kind of just passed me by a little bit. And I know I messaged you, and I was like,
Yeah, I think from what I've read about some of the reviews at the time, the ending was very divisive. Like a lot of people loved it, a lot of people hated it, and there was a lot in between. It worked for me, but I also understand why it wouldn't work for everybody. Similarly with the length issue on this one, because the pacing is so deliberate, because it is so slow, it feels like 3 hours 8 minutes. Whereas, like when I'm thinking back to like when we went to see the Batman, that's a 3 hour film. That didn't feel like a 3 hour film because it just flew by. This does, and I don't think that's a negative personally. I like the fact that it was deliberate and they gave everything the space to breathe. But Paul Thomas Anderson has said if he remade it today, he would probably knock at least 20 minutes out of it. I mean, like I say, I've no issue with it, but maybe it does get a little bit messy around the edges. Maybe not all of the storylines are perfect, but I do think they all are really well acted at the same time. Stu, how did you feel about like the intertwining elements of it? Was there anything in particular that you thought was just there rather than adding anything to the overall?
The William H. Macy stuff's a bit pointless.
So to jump in, but yeah, he was fucking amazing in it.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
he always is.
Yeah.
He's amazing in Jurassic Park 3 as well, but no one talks about that film. No, he's one of the like watching it now, like how well that was edited together, because it is it's madness. It's utter madness, and I think the score keeping it just not changing as well, and just being a constant throughout in the background when you are flitting between storylines and different people and blah blah blah. Yeah, this is all intertwined. This is not, let's go and see what Barry's doing now or whatever. No one called Barry in this film, by the way. But it does work. It works perfectly. And I think if you did it like in a Pulp Fiction-y way, where you'd have a block and then another block and another block, it wouldn't work so well.
I agree completely. Yeah.
Cutting between them as they have in this, it just works for me.
Yeah, maybe the kid on the game show, I'm like a little bit iffy. Like I don't know what that added to the overall, because I think the kid maybe had a little bit too much screen time when the story should have been about the dad in that particular segment. Maybe, but I feel like I'm fucking proper nitpicking here because I did really enjoy pretty much everything about this. I read a review from Bright Lights Film Journal where they said about Mackey, which is Tom Cruise's character, the Seduce and Destroy seminars feature some of the most aggressive, offensive language Cruise has ever uttered on screen. For example, the infamous "respect the cock" rally cry. It is incredibly uncomfortable to watch, which is by design, but it's still a tough pill to swallow. But I kind of wonder if I'm just numb to this because we see these horrible cunts like we literally had a documentary about these kind of shitbags made by Louis Theroux earlier this year. So watching it now, he feels like he's probably the one character you could take out today and put in a film and it would be exactly the same. I think everyone else, maybe they would probably be tweaked for 2026, but Tom Cruise's character, he would be exactly the same fucking awful human being he is now as he was then.
And the fact that this is so old as well, and that this kind of stuff pre-social media wasn't, I didn't know about it. mean, I would have watched this early 2003, 4, something like that. So hearing Tom Cruise say "tame the cunt" would have been quite shocking. And even hearing him saying now, it's not like, what, you're doing this.
Yeah. Well, if you think like Chasing Amy, I think was the first film that I remember using the word cunt, and like Hollywood American film using the word cunt. It took them years to accept it in the way that British did. So 99 being a mid-budget film starring Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is the one using the word cunt. I can imagine that must have been quite a fucking surprise to people.
He gets a reaction now, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashton, so the frog scene, you said it didn't work for you.
I suppose I wasn't, like I say, I didn't get the references to, what was the biblical reference you said, 8:2 and
Exodus 8:2 apparently is the because all throughout the film you do see the numbers 8 and 2 very regularly. So these are the bits that I've put together by reading elsewhere. If you're not a Bible basher, you're probably not going to pick this stuff up.
I was going to say I missed that part in Sunday school, sadly. So it didn't get to me. And I say I wouldn't, unless you'd have said it, I wouldn't have got it, because I ain't got any of the fucking Hail Marys and all that nonsense.
Yeah, that's fair. Stu, what did you think of it?
Great.
Because it's fucking mental, isn't it? Let's be honest. Like, raining frogs is a weird thing to put in a film that throughout this point has been very grounded, very humanistic.
And it does happen, though, to me. It's not like fiction.
Yeah.
I think this is the first time I'd ever heard about it. Obviously, not being a Sunday schooler either. And just hearing the term, it's raining frogs, and then it's raining cats and dogs as a kind of cockney version. Yes, I think it's got to have been the first time I saw this, because as soon as it got to it, I thought, oh yeah, I remember this part. I remember this part straight away. And obviously it's before CG, so mostly CG. So a lot of them were real, actual props. It's one of them things that you could deep dive into fuck on you, if you wanted to, or you could just say, well, this is just the perfect summary of a madness of a crazy day for all these people. Which is obviously
I think you are right. Like, it works on separate levels, doesn't it? Absolutely. Because I vaguely remember the story. It was possibly Moses. I don't know. One of those kind of characters in the Bible went to a king, a pharaoh, whatever, and said, I will send a plague of frogs. And I vaguely recall that is what it's from. So it was a case of using that to release his people. I think, is it a Charlton Heston film? Have I got it right in my mind? I feel like that's where I've seen it, possibly an old Charlton Heston movie. So I think the use of this was to demonstrate, and this is going to be quite film studenty, that like so many of the characters are holding on to like quite painful, toxic emotions. Like, they're really nasty, unpleasant, traumatic things that have happened in these people's lives that is preventing them from being released. And I think that that's what the Rain of Frogs was supposed to be. So Moses or whoever wanted his people to be released. The frogs got it to happen. These people needed to let their walls down, and then the frogs happened, and then you get that addendum at the film where we get that fucking brilliant William H. Macy speech when he kind of realises that he's just been an idiot, but I've got all this love to give, I don't know where to put it. We see Tom Cruise, who reaches out to Julianne Moore's character, and Julianne Moore, she was fucking brilliant in this and hasn't been mentioned yet. We get all of these bits that happen where the world is slowly changing because of the events of it. So I think in the grand scheme of the film, it's kind of genius. But if you're watching it at a not quite as deep level, it's weird. And it's almost bordering on weird for weird's sake. So I can absolutely see why, again, it would be quite a divisive ending. And like, whilst I don't think this film is perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I like Paul Thomas Anderson as a director. I think this is fascinating because it's just free from cynicism in the way that, like, we all watched wrestling around this time. The Attitude Era was the thing to be done. And that was fucking looking back, it's grotty, it's grimy, it's cynical as fuck. So for this film to have been released around that time, it just feels so. It feels like the antidote to that kind of thing, and I think that's amazing. And we've gone to see Paul Thomas Anderson do some wonderful films where he's got a bit more restraint when he's making them, and they're brilliant, and they're probably better for it. But this was a film where the studio said to Paul Thomas Anderson, after having a massive successful film before, they just said, "You make the film you want, and we will pay for it." He was given a blank check, so he went and just made all of the film that he could, everything that he could think. He tried to fit in here, and I think it's a good example of excess, and it's probably bordering on being too self-indulgent. But Stu, we both really liked Joaquin Phoenix in, what do you call it?
Crash.
No,
Beau is Afraid.
Beau is Afraid, which is like the most self-indulgent film, and I can see the parallels because it is a director who is just allowed to run free. And I like it. I like to see a director. I like to see an auteur director doing what auteur directors do. So in this one, does he run? He jumps around. He's highly energetic throughout the beginning of the film, but the main thing he runs is his mouth. I don't recall an actual sprint throughout this film from him.
No.
He does take his shirt off and goes one further. We actually see him in a pair of stuffed Y-fronts, do we think, lads?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Does he wear sunglasses? I don't remember, but like most of it is set indoors and at night, isn't it? So Cruise doing Cruise things, these tropes and stunts that you associate. Is this the best we've seen Tom Cruise act?
Yes.
You like Ash? Yeah, I mean, I can say, yeah. I really struggle. We've seen some really good films, and he's been a good actor in all of them. But this one just feels above and beyond, doesn't it? I think this is. I'm annoyed. I will get to it in a minute, but I'm annoyed that he didn't win the Oscar for this because I thought he was absolutely excellent.
Yeah. I think because it's such a different role to what you normally expect as well, and especially coming off Eyes Wide Shut, which he was just a bit of a cook, really, and not in a bear kind of way either. And he was, I mean, it's almost like expected now that he's going to be good like this. But when he's prancing around in a kind of Real Madrid Beckham hairstyle, obviously before that's the thing, saying what he says, and then when he's being interviewed with a reporter and she's just debunking everything he said as just bollocks. It's like, yeah, just the look on his face more than anything else. Yeah, this is class.
Ash?
It annoyed me very much that scene when he's at his dad's side, and he went through the entire through his entire speech, and you can feel it bubbling and bubbling and bubbling, and it cut away to another part. It really pissed me off because at that point I'd sat up and I was leant forward. You know, like the meme with the controller when you go 1-0 down against your mate and you lean forward. when he started, when he was going, I was there, and I was in, and then it cut away, and the gesticulation of throwing my hands up and just it pissed me off. That did, yeah, just superb.
Yeah, I mean, so that scene, originally Paul Thomas Anderson wrote it that as soon as Cruise walks in, as soon as Mackey walks into the room, he starts to cry because seeing his father. But Cruise said, I don't think that's what my character would do. I would be angry and upset. And Cruise grew up with an abusive father who abandoned him when he was 12 years old. And Cruise only saw him the night before he died of cancer in 1984. So Cruise poured his real life trauma directly into that scene, which then caused Philip Seymour Hoffman's reaction. That was a genuine reaction. He wasn't supposed to cry, but he was just so fucking in awe of what Cruise was doing in that moment that he just wept because he just said it was the most powerful thing he's ever witnessed.
Yeah, that also helped. Philip Seymour Hoffman, like in the background, because you notice him as well. It's like, yeah, that you know when you're watching proper thing.
The one thing I quite like about this film is because we're so used to seeing Cruise play, a bit of a cocky arsehole, not to this extent, generally speaking, but all the other characters. I mean, even Maverick is a bit of a prick. We're used to that. We're used to seeing the fall, the rise, and the victory. That's a fairly common Tom Cruise trope, I believe, at this point. With here, we see the cocky arsehole, the fall, and then we get a hint of he's going to be okay at the end. But I like the fact that it was left up to the viewer on whether or not him and Julianne Moore's character actually can build a relationship in the wake of the death of his father and her husband. I really liked they didn't go all the way and make it mega fucking saccharine there. I thought that was a really smart move from the director here. So Frank T.J. Mackey, he was not a total invention of Paul Thomas Anderson, apparently. He was modelled directly on Ross Jeffries, the founding father of the pickup artist movement and speed seduction. I've no idea what these things are. I obviously don't need them.
Manosphere before Manosphere.
Yeah, I think it is. To prepare for the role, Cruise studied Jeffries' real-life videotapes, handbooks and seminars. Jeffries taught men how to use neuro-linguistic programming to hypnotise, in quoted commas, women into bed. When the movie came out, Jeffries actually brought his trademark attorney to a screening. He claimed that Anderson and Cruise lifted some of the seminar lines almost word for word. However, Jeffries ultimately chose not to sue because he loved Cruise's performance. Years later, Jeffries, who later went by the name Paul Ross, I still don't know who this guy is, he claimed that Cruise didn't realise he was studying a character. Jeffries claimed that his loud, obnoxious Ross Jeffries persona was just an act he would put on to sell books, and Cruise accidentally ended up playing a character. Cruise's life and thoughts on the film. So Paul Thomas Anderson and Cruise met when he was filming Eyes Wide Shut, and Cruise asked him to write a role for him in Anderson's next movie, and he wrote Mackey. Cruise was apparently nervous to play the character because he was such an obnoxious prick and against type for Cruise. Even though I still think that he's the king of the cocky pricks, this is so far beyond what we're used to seeing. But much like Frank, because Cruise had got this history with his own father, I think he saw a kindred spirit there that he then sort of embraced for it. So he's basically spoken about how meaningful it was that he got to do this film, that it was such an important film. And I think it's one of his favourite films within his filmography. He also spoke about how meaningful it was to work with Jason Robards in his final film. Cruise said that the deathbed scenes were emotionally overwhelming and that he felt honoured to be part of Robards' last performance. I believe Robard died not even 12 months after this film was released. Co-stars, etc., have spoke of him. Hoffman, who plays the nurse, he says that during the filming of the sobbing scene, Hoffman's shocked, deeply emotional reaction was completely unacted. He later stated he had no idea that Cruise was going to enter such a zone, a raw, animalistic grief. He was genuinely stunned by the purity of Cruise's emotion. Paul Thomas Anderson has been extremely vocal about Cruise's work in Magnolia. He said that Cruise was fearless. He said he gave everything and then more. He said that Cruise's emotional breakdown scene was one of the most powerful moments I've ever filmed. And he said that Cruise was the most prepared actor I've ever worked with. I get the impression that after working with Eyes Wide Shut, fuck's sake.
Not really, Scott.
Kubrick. I'm losing my mind this evening. After working with Kubrick, who is very much not an actor's director, he's I will fucking drive you insane to get what I want. I don't care what you need. To then work with someone like Paul Thomas Anderson, who gives them the free rein. I can imagine this must have been like just worlds apart, and it must have been so almost not life affirming, but career affirming for Tom Cruise to see this side of the world. Because I can't imagine that 2-year shoot stuck in London doing Eyes Wide Shut would have been a walk through the park compared to this. So I just think it's incredible. Scientology watch. So there was a story that I missed, so we're going to have to go back a little bit. We're going to have to go back to 1997, so not too far. So picture it. Tony Blair swept into number 10 to usher in the most prosperous period in UK history. The Spice Girls are on the radio. And over in Germany, the government have decided that Scientology is not a religion, but, and in inverted commas here, a totalitarian money-grabbing business.
Oh.
The German youth wings were boycotting Mission Impossible because of Tom Cruise. They're boycotting Phenomenon because of John Travolta. German officials are either banning jazz musicians from entering their country because they were Scientologists. Obviously, this doesn't sit well with two of the biggest stars on the planet at this point. Deep inside Gold Base headquarters, a plan is hatched. This wasn't PR, this was holy war. Tom Cruise, operating at his standard, highly caffeinated, 150 miles per hour frequency, goes full Karen and decides that he needs to speak to the manager of all of Germany. That would be Chancellor Helmut Kohl. But obviously, Cruise can't just call him up, so he needs to embarrass him on the global stage. Using their massive Hollywood clout, Tom and John Travolta recruit their high-profile non-Scientologist friends, including Dustin Hoffman, Goldie Hawn, and Oliver Stone. They draft an open letter and take out a massive full-page ad in the International Herald Tribune. And this is where things go from like Hollywood protest to just unhinged. In this open letter to Chancellor Kohl, the Hollywood elite effectively compare what the Germans are doing in this moment by treating Scientologists. They compare it to the persecution of Jewish people during Nazi Germany. Yeah, the actual quote is, in the 1930s, it was the Jews. Today, it's the Scientologists. So Cruise and Travolta essentially told the German Chancellor in a global newspaper that banning them from promoting their sci-fi self-help courses was exactly the same as the Holocaust. As you can imagine, the reaction in Germany was immediate, it was furious, and it was kind of amused. The German government basically responded with, "Are you serious?" Politicians pointed out that while the Nazi regime ran concentration camps, Germany was simply refusing to give Scientology tax-exempt status because they charged people thousands of dollars to hold silver soup cans and talk about their past lives. It didn't stop there either. Years later, when Tom Cruise tried to make the movie Valkyrie, where he plays a German hero trying to assassinate Hitler, the German government initially banned him from filming at military sites because of his leadership role in Scientology. So it was the great German showdown, and it proved two things: that Tom Cruise and John Travolta genuinely believe their Hollywood power could bend European geopolitics to their will, and two, the German government have absolutely no time for any of this bullshit. To this day, if you want to work in the German civil service or even sponsor a certain public event, you have to sign a sect filter declaring you have absolutely nothing to do with Scientology. There's none of that in the English civil service, I can tell you for names. So the big three award count. Cumulatively, we're 22 wins and 59 nominations for films that Cruise has featured in up to Eyes Wide Shut. We need to add 3 nominations from the Oscars: original screenplay, original song for Amy Mann's Save Me, and Thomas Morpather Cruise IV was nominated for actor in a supporting role. He was up against Haley Joel Osment for Sixth Sense, Jude Law for The Talented Mr. Ripley, Michael Clark Duncan for The Green Mile, and the winner that year was Michael Caine for The Cider House Rules. This is, I feel like Cider House Rules is, because it's about abortion, I feel like it's a worthy film and it's a worthy performance. I think Cruise should have won. When I think back to all these performances, like they're all good performances, don't get me wrong. I think Cruise is a perfect performance. I think the others are just good. Am I being too defensive because we're doing a podcast about Cruise, or is that fair?
Maybe Duncan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I've never seen Cider House Rules, so I don't know.
Okay.
But he was superb in Green Mile. That's who I presumed as soon as you read his name out, that's who would have won. I was quite surprised, actually.
The Michael Caine one feels like the Jamie Lee Curtis one a few years ago. He's a great actor. He deserves some recognition, and I don't think that's enough to win it. But I feel like, I mean, they're all decent performances. There's absolutely no argument there. But I still feel like Cruise is probably the one. We have another nomination at the Globes for Amy Mann for Best Song, and we have a win for Tom Cruise for actor in a supporting role, and he was up against the exact same people as he was at the Oscars. So the critical response at the time, Magnolia was a major event. I don't remember it, if I'm honest. Like, I mean, I'd have been 16. I was probably more into the Matrix and stuff than I would have been something this art house at that point, probably. But Yeah, apparently it's a major event. Critics were highly polarised by the film's 3-hour runtime, but the legendary biblical ending also had the same sort of reaction. But they were unanimous in Tom Cruise. They all just said he was the best thing in it. Roger Ebert gave it 4 out of 4, calling it operatic in its ambition. He specifically lauded the actors for swinging for the fences, heedless of image or self-protective restraint, singling out Cruise's scary, hilarious portrayal. The modern reassessment is still very positive, but there's a few sort of negative elements creeping into it. Mark Kermode's praised Cruise, A.O. Scott praised the emotional honesty. David Ehrlich talks about how this is PTA's most overwhelming film. But some of the more sort of critical things, it's a messy, chaotic and deeply moving piece of immature auteur filmmaking, which I sort of get because it's a young man given the keys to the kingdom. So as I said before, he just did all of it. The coincidence elements, like the raining frogs, are secondary to the raw human exploration of generational trauma. But I kind of feel like they need to be. I don't think you can have the coincidence sort of being front and centre. It's got to be about the emotion. And the final thing, which is one I kind of want to touch on, it's a tragic reminder of the incredible character actor Tom Cruise chose not to be. Because the next film we've got coming up is Mission Impossible 2. And it doesn't slow down from there, because he just becomes an action actor at this point. We don't get to see him doing Rain Man. We don't get to see him really stretching himself. There's no A Few Good Men in the remainder of his career at this point. There's some really good movies. There just aren't any films. Like, it just feels a little bit like, and I love the stuff that he does. I am a fan of Mission Impossible. But like, was it Michael Caine said that he would do Jaws 3 for the money, and he'd do one for you and one for me. I think it was not Michael Caine, I think so, you said that. I don't think that Tom Cruise has ever quite found that balance of doing the worthy with the over the top. And this feels like the death of Tom Cruise as a serious actor. He just becomes Tom Cruise after this film.
But he's also excellent at doing that, though.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue. I still enjoy most of the films I see of his. I just want a bit more of this.
It's a bit like
Tropic Thunder. He's not action in that. He's character actor.
It's something. But it's a bit like what you said about James Cameron, though, how he just devoted his life to Avatar, and rightfully so, obviously. But that's what he wants to do, so...
I get it. And it's why he is one of the saviours of cinema, because those are the kind of films that put butts in seats. So the budget on this film is 37 million, cumulatively 664.8. The box office was 48.2 million. So like it would have been a financial loss. But studios want to have these kind of films so they can say, look, we give directors free rein to make art films. So you're not just doing big budget action, you're doing worthy stuff as well. But Cruise is all about the big budgets and getting people in to keep cinema alive. You couldn't keep cinema alive on, 2 Magnolias in the cinema every single week. It wouldn't work. You do need to have that balance. I just wish Cruise gave us that balance in his career and not just solely leaned into the action stuff. So yeah, as I said, 48.2 was the box office. Cumulatively, though, that's 3,402,200,000. It's fucking mental. Ash, Cage, or Cruise?
It depends. Which part are you asking? Because the Manosphere side, you could see Cage doing that, but everything after that part, there's no question. You got to say Cruise, because he does a good job of being this psychotic, fucking up Manosphere sort of guy. So, and then he can do that other side, which I don't think Cage could do.
Stu, you're nodding along. I assume you're agreeing there.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be funny to see. It'd be funny to see Nicolas Cage doing this now.
Yeah, it would, wouldn't it?
The retired old lunatic.
Yeah, I'd quite enjoy that. I think that would be because he's definitely still got it in the bag, and like, I think he could do a decent later Cruise in here. I don't think it would be as powerful because obviously Cruise has got the history that I think really pushes it over. But the early stuff, I think he would be brilliant, and he'd probably be brilliant back then as well. In fairness, doing it because like he does throw himself into these things, as we know. Like he's a fucking what is it? He calls it the shamanic acting style that he does. Like, he's a nut job, and I think this role calls for a bit of a nut job. Is Cruise the saviour of cinema or just another cinema sinner, even?
Well, yeah. And you doing it, giving performances like this in little art house films where he probably didn't get a big paycheck compared to what he normally gets. Yeah. It's just wonderful. Well, no one's doing
I'm sure
this
I
stuff.
read that he got $100,000 for this performance. he's picking up like 20 million, and he took $100,000. Like, you know, that's someone who loves the cause, isn't it? Ash?
Oh, he's back on form. Let's say you can say whatever you want about what you think of the storyline, etc., etc. The acting, not just him, everyone's just phenomenal in it. And after that shower of shit last week, he's just back on form.
Yeah, like I do feel a little bit torn. I think he's the saviour of cinema for the work that he puts in here, but he's a cinema because he gave up on this kind of acting. But it's really difficult because he has said that this was one of his favourite performances. He loved working with Paul Thomas Anderson. He called him a genius, filmmaker who sees everything. Cruise also said he felt safe exploring the ugliness of the character. So why haven't we seen it since? That's my frustration with this. It really is. But I loved it, and I loved him in this. If you enjoyed Magnolia, you may also like. I've gone with Boogie Nights. It's Paul Thomas Anderson. It's the film that preceded this. It's Julianne Moore, Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's the only Marky Mark film that's worth a damn. And that piece of shit hates the fact that he was in that film. So it needs to never be forgotten. It was just a fucking wonderful movie. So Boogie Nights would be my recommendation. Ash, what have you got?
I went with 21 Grams. Great little film. Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, sort of intertwining stories. But then, as well, you've got to go Love Actually.
It's not as expected. I don't think I've seen 21 Grams. That does sound like my cup of tea, just looking at the blurb. Okay, I'll be adding that one to the list. Stu?
It's kind of ruined it now. That's 21 Grams as well. I mean, I kind of mentioned it earlier as well, but not that one. Not Sexy Crash, the other Crash, the racial one. Mm-hmm. That's got storylines as well, eh? Mm-hmm. And it was James Spader, wasn't he? It wasn't Joaquin Phoenix. Of course it was. Sexy Crash.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the good one. The good Crash.
The good Crash. Is it I think it was Cronenberg, wasn't it, who did the good Crash? Sexy Crash. Yeah, great film. Right, okay, so that's another Cruise film in the books. As I said, next week, it is, let me just double check to make sure that's the right one. I think it is. Yeah, Mission Impossible 2 is the next film up. From what I remember, I remember seeing it at the cinema, and I don't think I've seen that one since. Or maybe I watched it when I did because I have watched all of the Mission Impossibles during the pandemic, I think it was. I don't remember a lot about number 2. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that one holds up. I remember not liking 3 much. That's all I can particularly remember about the early ones currently. But yeah, that's the next one up. The short film review. I think we'll do Finding Daddy. Comedy short film about Sugar Daddy. Ash, you will certainly appreciate it when you see the image on YouTube, because it is the one, the only Jake the Snake Roberts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that'll be our next one, will be Finding Daddy. It's on the Short of the Week YouTube channel. So you can find it there if you want to watch it before listening to us dissect that one. Make sure you've got us on whatever podcast that you listen to us on. And if you leave us a review, it would help us out and might get us like a little bit more noticed by other folks out of there. If you want to get in contact, it's at Cage Fighting Pod on all of the socials. Drop us a message, share a tweet of ours, whatever you want. And again, just see if we can get other people viewing and interacting with us. And if you want to send us an email, it's cagefightingpod@gmail.com. For this week, Ash, would you like to say goodbye?
Toodaloo.
And Stu, would you like to say goodbye?
Respect the cock. Goodbye.
Never spoke about that, did we? Was it respect the cock, tame the cunt? What a fucking line that is. It's goodbye from me too. And remember, come August, we like to celebrate. Saint, suck my big fat fucking sausage.